Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the world's first Zero Limits seminar. This is not Beyond Manifestation. This is not the Manifestation Weekend. This is not a Ho'oponopono workshop. This is Zero Limits. It's never been done before. I have never co-led this with Dr. Len before, so this is all new. I've got no notes. I've got no agenda, no handouts. I had talked to Dr. Len yesterday saying, what are we going to do this weekend? He said, we'll show up. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And he said that I promise you that I will be there and keep cleaning. And I said, but are you going to talk? He started laughing. He said, I will just clean. I will just clean. So I don't know if I'm going to be speaking all weekend or if he's going to be speaking. We also have a surprise speaker who I've not heard before, who's written a book that I absolutely love, which is about Ho'oponopono and growing from the inside out. Most of you already know the story, but for those who don't, I need to quickly tell you about it. And before I go there, we found this in the breakfast room. Does anybody recognize this? It's yours. All right. It's either yours or you won it. Oh, she almost didn't get it. How many of you were in the Beyond Manifestation weekend, the last one? How many were in the one before that? Yeah, most of the people here were in one of those weekends. I never announced this particular workshop. I never promoted this workshop. Had I promoted Zero Limits to my major list, we would have needed to find a stadium. So many people want to know what the secret is behind the secret. So many people want to know about Zero Limits. So many people want to know about my forthcoming book called Zero Limits. So many people want to know about the world's most unusual therapist who is here today and this weekend. So first of all, the quick story is 3 years ago, Mark Ryan, who's in the room someplace, he's over there. Hello, Mark. Good morning. Told me about a therapist who healed an entire ward of mentally ill criminals without seeing any of them. Now, I think I'm a pretty open-minded guy, but when I heard that story, I thought, I like you, Mark, but I think you swallowed a big one here. I think this is an urban legend. This doesn't sound like the truth at all. And so I didn't talk about it. I didn't investigate it. I let it go. I heard it again from Mark a year later. He said, did you investigate that therapist who healed an entire ward of mentally ill criminals? And I said, no, but what do you know about it? And he said, well, he used something called Ho'oponopono. And supposedly, he worked at this mentally hospital in Hawaii for the criminally insane, and he never saw clients, but he did something within himself that changed those people as he was working on himself. Well, I was curious at this point, and I started looking for that therapist. I couldn't easily find him. I know how to do research online. I know how to Google, and I know all those secret back doors to find information, but I couldn't find this therapist. So I found that a little curious and a little frustrating, but I also was very persistent. Finally, I found him listed on an unusual website called Business by You. I think that's the website, businessbyu.com. And there his face was. And there was some information about him, and it said that you can hire him by email for consultations. And I thought, well, that's a little weird by email, but I'm going to hire him because I want to find out what the story is. There began my adventure. I did do a session with him by email, which I virtually got nothing out of, which made me even more curious. It's like, is this how he dealt with the mentally ill people? I mean, this didn't help me. So I said, can I talk to you on the phone? I got him on the phone, and he spent an hour talking to me. Now, keep in mind, he didn't know who I was at all. For him to give that hour was very generous. He didn't charge me for it. He didn't question me about it. He just answered all my questions. And I wanted to know, what's the story about the mental hospital? And he said, yes, he had worked there. And I said, you never saw patients? He said, well, I saw them in passing, but I never saw them professionally, not therapeutically. And I said, well, what were you doing that somehow caused them to change? He said, I just kept cleaning. Were you using ivory soap? What were you doing? What do you mean you just kept cleaning? Were you cleaning the bathrooms, the walls? What did you mean? He said, I just kept cleaning myself. Well, what does that mean? He said, I just kept working on me. I just kept saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And I thought, well, how did that do anything? I was just incredibly confused and incredibly fascinated by this, and I wanted to know more. He answered all of his questions, and it just left me in a state of confusion. But something was awakening in me that was knocking at my inner door that said, go learn more. He had a workshop coming up. I was only a few weeks away, and I asked him about it, and I said, should I attend it? He said, I don't know. And I said, how many people are going to come? He says, I hope not too many. He says, I keep cleaning so only the right people come at the right time. Well, I found this mystical fellow rather interesting. And I notified Mark, and I said, Mark, would you like to go to this workshop with me? I said, since you were the guy who told me about this fellow, I said, I will pay for you to attend it. Well, he eagerly agreed. He was just as curious about this man as I was. Now, the man told me his name as being E. Haleakala Hulen. E. Haleakala Hulen. So I still can't say it. He said, you can call me E for short. The letter E? He said, yes, E for short. So I called him that for a while until I started calling him Dr. Len. Everybody here probably refers to him as Dr. Len. His real name is Dr. Hulen. So if we want to do it right, we should be saying Dr. Hulen or Dr. E, but I think he'll answer to anything. Anyway, Mark and I did the workshop. We found it pretty fascinating. I did a series of workshops on Ho'oponopono. I also talked to Dr. Len about me writing a book, and he said, I'll clean on it. And I thought, is that like the Japanese? When you ask them, do you want to do something together in business? They'll say, we'll see, which means no. We'll see means no in the Japanese language. So he said, I'll clean on it. And I thought, well, he's just telling me no. I kept checking in, and he kept saying, I'll clean on it, I'll clean on it. And he kept cleaning on it, apparently, because at one point he said, I want to write this book with you. More importantly, he wanted me to write the book, and that he would just review it. So I brought him to Austin. Suzanne and I set up a dinner in February of a year ago. I thought 5 people might go to that dinner and learn about Dr. Len and about Ho'oponopono and this process he uses to heal the criminally insane and to help everybody else by working on himself. And we had almost 100 people. We had to get a hotel room. And this was by word of mouth, much like the effect that's going on here. I never promoted this, but look at all the people. There's more people that want to come. And I couldn't let them in the door. We've got standing room only. We've got fire codes to deal with at this point. So I started to have more adventures with Dr. Len. I brought him to Wimberley, where we spent some time one-on-one together just talking. And I really felt like I was grasshopper with the Satori master as I walked up and down the streets of Wimberley. And I would have these Satori experiences because he's just being himself. But out of his being himself, I would go, oh, and I would have whacks across the head that would wake me up. And I got more and more excited. I started working on the book, Zero Limits. I spent night and day on this book. I wanted this book to be earth-shaking. I wanted this book to be the best thing I've ever written. Cindy Cashman's already told me. She's read all of my stuff. She said, this is the best thing you've ever written, by far, she says right here, ever. There's a handful of people who have read it. Dr. Mark Gitterly, who was also at that dinner in February, read the book, and he said that this book is going to change an entire generation. He said historians will look back at this book as a watershed moment in history. I'm getting electrocuted here, just standing here telling you what he said about my book. I tell Dr. Len all of this, and I'll just keep cleaning. Yesterday, I'm in his room, and we're talking for a little bit, and he says, Joe, when your book comes out, now it's my book, it's not our book, when your book comes out, the shit is going to hit the fan. God, what a cheery guy, right? Because I'm already planning to shake the earth with the book promotion-wise. I'm a marketing guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm already lining up my forces, my artillery, my allies. I want the world to know about this book, which is so incredibly ironic because the only person who really needs to know about this book is me, as you'll find out if you don't already know. But here I am wanting to shake the world with this entire book, and I'm getting promotional people lined up and marketing people lined up, and I'm not going to do it just by myself. I can make a book an Amazon bestseller, but I want this a New York Times bestseller. Already been in contact with Oprah. I was supposed to be on the Oprah show yesterday, and it looks like I'm not going at all on that show about the movie The Secret, which most of you know I'm in. But it'll probably be because of Dr. Len and Zero Limits. So this book is going to go out there in a big way, and he says the shit's going to hit the fan when it comes out. So I'm sitting in his room, and I'm just thinking, so what? I'm ready for this. I go back to my room, and I get an email from one of my early readers of the book who experienced some shit hitting the fan and took it out on me. I got one email, and I was devastated for the next hour. I had to go lay down and go, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you, over and over and over again. This is kind of a hint of how this new method works, because where I want to go, or I think where we all want to go, is at this place called Zero Limits, which the code word might be whiteboard, because it's the whiteboard before we write anything on it. As soon as you ask the question, or I ask the question, what is zero limits? We've written something on the whiteboard. As soon as we ask something like, how do we get the zero limits? We just wrote something on the whiteboard. And that's not zero limits. That's something on top of zero limits. And so in the past, I might have taken that email that came to me, which was like a bombshell to me at that time, and I'm thinking, oh, I have to go be social in a little bit. I'm going to a dinner. I have to smile. And I just got a hand grenade thrown to me. And I see him right after it, and he says, that was level 1, Joe. They'll still go to level 6. And I'm like, I'm not going to hang around this man anymore. He doesn't have any good news. And again, I'm saying it jokingly because all of this that comes up is for us to cleanse. And in the past, when I got an email like that, what I would have done is might have written back to the person and tried to logically explain things, or I might have gone to therapy and had all of this stuff worked out within myself, so I'm defusing buttons. But instead, what I'm looking at is I am 100% responsible for everything that is in my life. That person, that email is in my life. I have to be 100% responsible for that. Not just the experience of what was going on inside of me, but that person and what I perceive their experience as going on inside of them is a shared memory. And for me to get back to the whiteboard, to get back to zero state, I have to clean that. And as I clean that, I don't not only clean it in me, I clean it in that person, and I clean it in the people that it's shared with. This is the new direction that we're going with zero limits. So by my spending that hour laying on the bed saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you, I got up feeling much better. I was much more relieved. I was still shaken, obviously, openly I was, admittedly, but I felt lots better, and I had another email come from that same person, much more relaxed, much more loving and open. So there were some things happening. There was a ripple effect taking place. So what's happening this weekend is, I don't really know. I mean, the email last night, that's all part of this weekend, but I didn't set that up, not consciously anyway, maybe in some unconscious way, some divinely planned way it's been set up. I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the ride. So anyway, I have found that therapist, I have worked with that therapist, I have authored a book with that therapist. We have people talking about turning that book into a movie, which excited me. I did a radio show called Spiritual Hollywood. They listened, they heard the story about the unusual therapist, and they said, that should be a movie. Why didn't I think of that? That's right. This is like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but a happier ending, and a much different way of doing therapy. So I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be big. This is going to be huge. This is going to be the movie. It's going to be the book. It's going to be Oprah. It's going to be all these other things that are happening out there in the world. But again, it all comes down to me. And I hope that you hear that this is relevant to you. But everything that's going on has to happen inside of me. All the cleansing, all the memories, anything in the way, all the problems, anything I perceive, it's not in the other people. It's in me. And so I'm cleansing. I am cleansing. And I wear all kind of devices to remind me of that. This pin up here, you'll see that Dr. Len is wearing a pin on his hat. I put a second pin on my hat. Do double duty here with the cleansing. To remind me to just keep doing, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you, which are the phrases we will be exploring here to find out why they work. So, do you have any questions about where we're going this weekend or what I've rambled on to say so far? Not a one. Not a one. Not a comment, not a thought, not a...
We're ready, let's go.
We're ready, let's go. Get Joe off the stage. Is that it?
Along for the ride.
You're along for the ride? That's good. That's good. Well, how many of you would like to hear Dr. Len talk for a little bit? Anybody? Yeah. Well, it is my great pleasure to bring up Dr. E. Haleakala Hu Len.
Suzanne? Where's our friend Suzanne? Suzanne, can we pass the erasers out? Oh, sure. Please. You and Bruce, thank you very much. You're welcome. While they're passing the erasers out, I want to make a couple comments about the room. First of all, the room is very sacred. The room is very, very sacred. So you need to be aware of that. How you treat yourself is how you'll treat this room. And if you're willing to accept the fact that this room is very sacred, and whoever built it with great sacredness, then the room ought to be acknowledged as some. But each chair that you're sitting in is very sacred. It isn't just a chair. You didn't just happen to sit in that chair, but each of the chairs you're sitting in, very, very sacred. So that means how you treat the room and how you treat the chair is how you treat yourself. So I want you to pay attention to that. So this room is very, very sacred. The chair that you sit on is very, very sacred. The air that you breathe in this room is very sacred. So this room is a temple. And I would like, at least I'm going to treat it as a very sacred place. So the owner who put out his soul to build these things, we want to honor that person, because that person, whatever he was inspired, built this room, and you're here, instead of sitting out there in the rain someplace. So I want to make the point very importantly, the room is very sacred. So I would appreciate it if you would not have any cell phone conversations in the room, because you will disturb the rhythm of the room. So this room has an identity of its own, and it can only do what it was created to do without your disturbing it. So cell phones, computers, all these things up will disturb the room. And if you disturb the room, then we can't get across the information. So I just want to make the point, the chair you're sitting on, the table that you're right here, the carpet that you're standing on, the foundation, all of this is very sacred. And without this room, this cannot take place. So I get to watch you, how you treat the room, and I get to do my cleaning. Years ago, I worked again at Hawaii State Hospital, and one of the things you noticed about the ward, that the peeling of the paint, the toilets would flush when nobody was on them. The room the lights would go off and on. You could hear crying in the room. And so no plants would grow. And so this room, I had Joe bring in a plant, see? So this plant represents the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdom. It's going to watch all of us to see how sacred we are. And it'll know whether we in fact are sacred to ourselves, which is where we want to begin and end. The sacredness and how we treat ourselves. So I want to see if you have any questions about the sacredness of this room, the sacredness of the chair and the floor. Did you know, for example, that the person who sat on this chair had a financial problem? Hello? Person who sat in this chair had a financial problem. So when I look to take 100% responsibility for whatever it is that this room comprised of, I looked at all of you. I asked Joe to give me a registration names of all of you, and then the room, and then the address, because this room was once under a huge glacier. So there are memories of that. This room was part of the flooding. There's memories of that. So, but this chair right here, somebody sat on this chair that had financial problems, like you, which means you get up and you leave your crap. This is what we all do. We go from place to place, desecrating things. So I just want you to know this room has been set up in such a way that when you're in this room, the cleaning is taking place. Once you leave the room to go outside of the building, you're on your own. Yeah? And only because this room really wants to feel loved and cared for, which is something rare in the annals of human existence. So please, no cell phone discussions in the room. It'll disturb the room. Even the computers that you folks are using will disturb the room. The cameras in the room will disturb the room. So if you want to get the most out of it, you have to be zero. You have to be sacred. If you're not going to get anything out of this. All you're going to do is get reactions. You're going to have questions. You're going to bitch and moan. You're going to get annoyed and irritable. I've been through this. This is why it's very dangerous to give a course like this, because all the stuff will come up from ancient stuff will just pour out. Now, as long as I'm in the room, I'm kind of feel like safe, because the room will, in fact, clear it. But it won't clear it if you're not sacred with it. So I want you to see if you have any questions about the sacredness of this room, the chairs, the carpet, and you. Good. So I'm going to ask Suzanne, where is my friend Suzanne? Okay. I'm going to ask Suzanne if she would come and just stand right here for a minute. Suzanne, please. I would like for you to take your erasers out. Okay, please. Okay, everybody got an eraser? Sir, can you come up for a minute, please? Now I want you just to watch something. So I'm going to ask him to come up. The person who owns the building. I'm going to ask him if he would stand right here. And then all I'm going to do is ask him to take his eraser and erase that, M. Could you do that, please? So what happens? It can't be erased. Why might that be so? I'm sorry? There you go. So it's important for you to know that there are certain things that only you can do. And if you don't do it, nobody else can be able to do it. Can I make the point? In other words, you have come into this lifetime to do those things that nobody else can do. And if you can't erase the stuff and take yourself back to zero, you're stuck and you'll never be able to achieve that. So your only enemies are who? Yeah, not yourself. You're zero. Your only opponent is this. Memories. That's your only opponent. When you don't have these memories, you're back to zero. That's who you are. Pure, free, perfect, whole, complete. When you are a memory, it's all bullshit. Absolute bullshit. That's not you. So now, let's say that our friend David was able to erase that. That gets erased. Immediately, everything else gets erased. From the room, the carpet, the grass, the mineral, vegetable, animal kingdom, all throughout the whole cosmos. Everything gets erased if he's willing to be 100% responsible. By erasing it, he erases it for all. And you won't even know it. Why won't you know it? Not only that, because most of what you are aware of, you're not even close to what's going on. For every memory that you are conscious of, which is still bullshit stuff, there are millions going on that you're not aware of. Millions. And you're thinking you know. Bull. I'm going to make that point again. For each memory that is in my friend David, he's got millions happening below his awareness. And that's what's driving him, not that. It's the millions and millions. So let's say for every second there are 15 memories that come up that David may be conscious of. There are 15 million he's not, and that's jerking him around. That's what you got to get at. It's like Psalms 19, verse 12, or something like that, where the psalm is lamenting what they are, these secret errors. I don't know what they are, but the you and you can have it erased. But you have to know it's only you. If you don't erase it here, if something comes up in his mind that he may not be even aware of, if he doesn't get at it and erase it, we're all stuck with it. We're all stuck with it. And there are certain things that's going to come up that only you can clean. If you're waiting for David to clean, he won't even be conscious of it. And you're stuck now. We're all stuck. So anybody know how a symphony orchestra gets tuned up? Who comes out and tunes them up? Concert master. So David is like a concert master. So if he's willing to erase, everybody, he goes into tune, this gets erased and everybody else goes into tune. He can tune everybody up. And they may not be even conscious of it. So you need to know that everything that you experience, and most of it you're not aware of, is in you. You can't get outside of you. It's not possible. So when you see out of memory, you see with, where's my friend Ryan? Ryan, did you bring the dark glasses?
In my car.
Can you get it? I want to make a point, yeah. So I want to stop to see whether you have any questions. So this is not David. This is David. 0 is David. This is David's opponent. Not his son, not the building, not the weather, not anything else. This is his, and this is yours. But when David's willing to let that go and return to 0, he's home. That's where everything is. Everything that's perfect and right for David will show up. But he's got to get rid of that opponent. If you don't get rid of that opponent, you haven't got a chance. And not only that, you make it hard on everybody else. And they're stuck. So I'm going to pause to see if you have any questions about who you are not. And if you don't get that, we're all stuck with it. Our friend poor Suzanne is stuck with it. This is our friend Suzanne. So I want to pause to see if you have any questions, any comments. Now, she's going to have a question, okay? Everybody see it? Raise your hand. She has a question. What does that mean? Pay attention. Pay attention. That means something's up. You should be saying, I love you, thank you, instead of being there going, uh-oh, I have a question too. Bullshit stuff, I tell you. But if she has a question, that's great, because now if David was quick enough, he'd start doing his clean, because he would be back to 0, and he would take her back to 0, and she'd get a perfect answer. She would get a perfect answer from whom? Herself. And who is herself? 0. And what does 0 open the door to? God. Creation. The infinite. But you can't do it if your opponent's there. So we want you to ask questions, but the rest of us ought to be doing cleaning, you know. Otherwise, you're going to piggyback on her question, and then the whole room is going to be like a psychiatric hospital. It's going crazy. Really. Thank you very much. Yeah. So the only point I'm going to make, hopefully, to get the idea across, is that this is either me or David, but this is what I see out of. I'm seeing out of my shades, which means I see crap. Sorry. But if I'm willing to let go of the shade, which is just a memory, I'm seeing out of memory, I'm back to zero. I can see as God sees, with absolute clarity. That's all I'm going to talk about this weekend. How you, your only opponent, not your mama, not your papa, not anybody, not government, not Bush, not anybody, not Iraq, it's you. And if you're willing to let go and be here, you set everybody free. And everybody will move until another memory hits, boom, and everybody's stuck. But most of the time, we see out of this stuff. We spend 99% of our time looking at this, and we say that's for real. This is our opponent. You have no opponent but this. And this wants to go. It doesn't want to be your opponent, but you put it there, and you're responsible to take it out. Ma'am, you had a question?
You know, allowing that space between when I wanted to ask the question until now, you've allowed me to answer my own question.
Yes.
So there is no question.
Yeah, so you're going to put people like us therapists out of business. We're going to have to do something else. Really. If you come from, thank you, Suzanne. We're going to have to figure out a way to erase that stuff, huh? Yeah. Thank you very much, David. Consumers Report put out a book called How You Can Clean Practically Anything, see? And I don't know, they have 80 or 90 ways, depending, and so we're going to find a way how to clean this stuff, yeah? So, I don't want to discourage questions, but anytime you ask a question, that means we're all unclear. All of us. If you're waiting for an answer to come, like a discussion, you ain't going to, discussions don't erase. It won't do it. The only thing it will erase is I love you. And why will I love you erase? Some of you are doing it. Why does it work?
Takes you back to zero?
What? I know it. Okay, we got that one. It takes us back to zero. How does it take us back to zero? So you need to know that. You need to appreciate how you move the whole cosmos by simply saying I love you. How you engage the entire cosmos by saying I love you. But you need to be aware what's involved so you can be awed by this stuff, as opposed to I love you. And you go, oh, is there a faster way? I love you. No, it got to be I love you, I love you, I love you. But when you say I love you, you cannot believe, you engage the whole cosmos. Anything that's out, the divinity will put in. Will put it back in the rhythm. The whole kit and caboodle. So if the divinity says, I'm going to take that memory out, it's going to take it out of everything. All different galaxies, different dimensions, things you're not even aware of. We'll pull it off. So the idea is I want you to appreciate the fact that as being a divine being at zero, you have enormous power by saying I love you. But you need to know how it works so you can appreciate it. So I want to come back. Yes, ma'am. We get to clean now. I love you. Thank you. Don't just sit there like a lump in a log. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
It connects me to the divine.
I'm sorry?
It connects me.
Yes. So that's one of the things that it'll do. As soon as you say I love you, instantly that connection is made to the divinity. Instantly. Why would that be so, David? If that, when you say I love you, instantly that connection is made with divinity. Why would that be so?
That's where we came from.
Yes. Did you hear what David said? That's where we came from. Love. Not any kind of love. Not the kind of love, I love you if. Yeah. But the love that will take you home again to a pure state. And that love is when you say I love you, it has three elements in it. Three important elements that you ought to be aware of and appreciate. The first element is I'm sorry. When you say I love you, so sometimes when I have a back pain, if I'm on an airplane, I simply say I love you. So I'm talking to the divinity because I have something going on in me that creates this back pain. So I'm saying to the divinity, I love you. And so now that love you, that is a petition. I'm saying to the divinity, I'm sorry for whatever's going on in me that's not me, and I'm asking you to do whatever is right for me and for that. That's the first thing. The first element is repentance. I'm sorry. When you say I love you, you're saying I'm sorry for whatever is going on in me that's not me. And the other thing that you're saying is, please forgive me. So when you say I love you, you're talking about repentance and forgiveness. Every time you say I love you, every time you say I thank you, you're saying to the divinity, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And then the divinity can only do, the next step is called transmutation or transformation. And that is to erase these memories and take you back to zero. You cannot do it. The conscious mind, the intellect, has no ability to come and erase that stuff, to transform that back to zero. So every time you use this process, and several processes are going to be given, it's the process of, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and then allowing the divinity to erase. So only divinity can erase. So I'm going to pause to see if you have any unclarity that I've created on my part. Yes, ma'am. Now we get to erase as she's talking now.
We're going through the process of saying this over and over and over again. And we may hit or touch on the zero, but how do we say it constantly? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. So how would she stay there constantly?
Like keep saying, I'm sorry.
Yep, it's tedious. It's tedious. And particularly it's tedious because you're looking. You're looking for what? Results. And you're saying to the divinity, I'm looking for results. Yeah? As opposed to trusting. So in this country, I'm talking about the U.S., some of you from other countries, but in this country, what is our motto, David, for this country? What is our motto? In God we trust. Ha! What a bunch of baloney, you guys. In God we trust. Yeah. So in this great country, the motto is in God we trust. So when we do our cleaning, please know when you knock, the door is going to be open even if you don't see it below your consciousness. If you ask, the door will open. It will open. As opposed to you going, did it open? Oh my God, you're only aware of one out of a million stuff going on at once, and you're trying to make a judgment? What a bunch of baloney. Here's who you are. Zero, created in the exact likeness of the divine. Perfect. No intentions, no problems, no desires, no nothing. No wishes, I wish I had more money. When you're at zero, it's all gone. You don't have to do anything with that. But it's tedious work to go from here, because the enemies are mountainous. Mountainous. The deep is the deep blue sea. It's the surging and the moving in your mind of this data, this information. It moves and like that. So each of us have a particular vortex we're caught in that we have to be responsible for. Others are caught in different, but if we all work as a family, because that's who we are. See, zero means we're all family. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. So zero makes us family. Can I say that again? Zero makes us family. We don't acknowledge, at zero, we don't acknowledge anything that a religion, a race, a belief. There's none of that you have to deal with. When you're at zero, you're home free. Free. Like King said, I'm free at last. But we're talking about spiritually. We're free at last. And the only thing between you and freedom is your stuff. So I'm going to pause, see if you have any unclarity on my part. Yes?
I guess my question to you is that the cleaning that you've done, and you've been cleaning for a long time,
25 years.
long before all of us here.
Yeah.
And you're still cleaning.
Yeah, and I'll go on until I take my last breath.
That's the message, that we don't stop.
Yeah, it's tedious.
When we think about being at zero, I don't see it ever happening then.
Oh, it does happen. Watch this. See? All of a sudden, without your awareness, and this is why you have to trust the divinity will do for you if you're willing to do your part. So all of a sudden, out of the storm comes this little light and goes, whoa, and you go, oh, you got inspired. One little parting of the clouds, one little parting of the data. But we're thinking, come on, hurry up, I don't see anything, but it's happening all the time. In other words, the light's hitting you all the time, but you're not even aware of it. How can you? My gosh, out of one, here's the level of consciousness. This is consciousness, this is subconscious. 1 million below. And you're making pronouncements on that. So you should give up. You should say, God, I don't know, as opposed to most of us walking around saying, I know. Well, you don't know, you don't know. I mean, you've got zillions, you got mountains. This is what the message of Jesus and Buddha and all these, and listen, it's stacked against you. But you can move mountains if you're willing to be 100% responsible. But I want you to be clear, this is the only thing between you and you. That's it. Not your mama, not your papa, not anybody. It's in you. And I think it's wonderful. Now I don't have to wait up on anybody. As opposed to, what about you? And the other person says, what? What about you? And then you have psychologists making lots of money because we're into blame. We make tons of money. Lawyers make tons of money. And everybody's unclear. I don't know, I've been doing this for a year. I don't know any psychologist that's clear or any lawyer. Do you know any of them? And it's great. Then you should come home and take care of your own stuff. Because nobody else is going to do it for you because they don't know what's going on. So when I work, when people email me or in class like this, and somebody will come and talk to me, I know there's something up, and I start cleaning. This is why I'll stick in this room most of the day. I want to be in this room while this cleaning's going on. But I want to be clear, she's asking a question. That's where she's coming from. We want to be here, so she's doing us a favor. It's an opportunity to what? To let the mountain go. So anytime anybody's got anything, you want to say, wow, what an opportunity for me to be 100% responsible.
When you're cleaning and I'm cleaning, are we cleaning each other? Are we cleaning the space around us?
You have to ask the more important question. Am I 100% responsible for what is going on in me? And as long as you're clean, there can be a storm around you, but you might be experiencing that little sunshine, and everybody else could be going crazy.
So it's focused on your own cleaning.
It's always been. You ever notice that every time there's a problem, you're always there?
That's true. You're
Well,
right.
it's true for me.
It's true.
And on that note, I would like to take a break, please. Can we just take a short break? Let's take a short break. Otherwise, what happens is a part of you will walk out the door. You might be there, but you're not home.